Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. We are doing a requested video from one of you guys, which was to talk about all the books that I have read this summer, rate them, and discuss my opinions on them. So this is gonna be good because it's also gonna remind me of all the books that I've read so far. So I feel like I've not talked about book stuff on my channel at all really, except for in the occasional daily vlog where I'm like, oh, I'm reading this book. But basically 2 years ago I got back into reading hardcore, and so this year I have a goal of reading my 2025 reading challenge, which I have this on Goodreads. If you guys have not heard of Goodreads, it's basically just an app. This is not sponsored at all. It's like a social app for people who like to read, and you can see what books your friends are reading and you can rate them and you can comment how you feel about a book that you read. You can leave a review for the book. I feel like most people who are readers know about Goodreads. I need to read one more book to get back on track, but I read 25 books this year and my goal is to read 40 books this year, which sounds crazy because I used to not be such a big reader, but with teaching, reading also just helped me to calm down after a long day of teaching. But anyways, the purpose of this vlog is we're going to talk about all the books that I read. Now, I usually don't purchase my books, so I don't really have any of them hardcover, so I'm just going to be putting pictures up on the screen of the book, and then we will discuss and talk about my rating and what my thoughts were throughout. My best friend, aka Maddie, my roommate, if you guys know, you know her, she always thinks it's really funny when I read books because I usually start off hating them, then I love them, so it's just always a journey that I go on when I read a book. What I want to do is I just want to go through, because the request was to talk about the books that I've read over this summer. So I'm just going to talk about books from June and July, which means I actually don't have any hardcover books of those. So I read 8 books in June and July. So we're going to go through. The great thing about Goodreads is it tells me what I rated them and it tells me when I read them. So obviously summer started, so I wasn't teaching, and so I just spent all my time reading. That's how I read 8 books in 2 months. It might sound crazy, but usually I'm not reading that many books in 1 month. We started off very, very strong with a book that was actually recommended to me from one of my mom's friends, and it is called James. It was a Pulitzer Prize finalist, and basically this book was Huckleberry Finn rewritten. So it was the journey of a slave trying to escape and find his family. The main character, James, was separated from his wife and daughter. He basically goes on a journey to try to find them, and at one point he ends up he's crossing the river, and the young boy in the family ends up helping him basically, and it is just telling that story of his journey, and you're wondering the whole time if he is able to find his wife and daughter. The boy that helps him, that was in the family, he had faked his own death because he was trying to escape from his father, who was super violent. So they went together and they're helping each other, and he ends up stumbling upon different slaves and hears their stories, and then at one point he's in a musical group where they did whiteface and all of they painted him to try to make him look like he was white even though he wasn't, and that was a whole part of the story. And I think that it just really depicted and described slavery really well, and it was a really interesting story. Obviously it's a classic, so it was a take on the classic, and I really liked it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I think I read it pretty much in one sitting, but also I remember I was on a flight when I read this one. But if you want something that's historical, it was very historical, and I said, set in the time of slavery, and I really liked the writing style. The writing style was great because I felt it had that piece of, oh, this was written a really long time ago, but it also was a bit modernized, which made it easier to read than I think Huckleberry Finn would be. Yes, I really enjoyed it. I definitely would recommend that one. I really liked it. It definitely was very heavy at some points and was violent and described all the things. But it was really good. So then I went from reading that very deep story to Funny Story by Emily Henry. Listen, I've read a couple of Emily Henry books before, and I loved, what is her book that I love? What is it called? Happy Place. Happy Place is my favorite one by Emily Henry, and so every time I read an Emily Henry book, I feel I'm subconsciously comparing it to that, and so I gave it a 3. Oh my gosh, so I highlighted 2 quotes. One of them that I highlighted was, "There was no point clinging to something that wasn't really yours." I feel that really hit deep in the relationship aspect. "You, my girl, are whoever you decide to be" was the next quote that I highlighted. But this was a very good, rom-com type story. And I think that the reason I gave it 3 stars was that the beginning was a little bit slow for me. And it's all about this girl who is in this relationship, and she ends up getting dumped by this guy, and he ends up with like his best friend that he was like, oh, don't worry about her, like I'm not gonna be with her. Yeah, they end up getting married and they end up together, and then both the exes from those relationships, that is about like their story. So then they're meeting, they're living together because she had nowhere else to go, and the guy from the girl's relationship also had nowhere else to go. And so it kind of just goes into that. And I did really like how Daphne was a librarian in this story. I thought it was so cute. Yeah, she's a children's librarian, and I just thought that was so cute. Like, I loved her job and loved her little personality. I don't know, I just thought it was like mediocre. Like, I was like, okay, whatever, they want to, I don't know. It was kind of mediocre to me. It wasn't my favorite one overall. I did think it was cute. It was cute. It had its moments. It was cute. That's why I gave it 3 stars. Okay, so I read that one also in June. The next one I read in June, okay, this was my 5-star read for June. Kristin Hannah. I need to read more Kristin Hannah books. I've read 2. I've read The Women, and now I've read Magic Hour. And I had never really heard anything about this book. It was a moment of desperation. I needed to find a book that I could read immediately because I ran out of my books. And so it was available on my Libby app. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to read this. I gave it 5 stars. I ate this book up. I loved this book. It was so good. The storyline was so good. Now, Kristin Hannah usually does historical fiction. I'm pretty sure this one was just fiction. And it is about this psychologist who, okay, there's a couple different things going on in this story. We have the psychologist, okay? She's having a bunch of stuff going down, okay? She's like been in the news. People are mad at her. They're like, didn't you see the signs coming? This was your patient. You should have known that they were going to commit suicide, all this stuff. Anyways, so then she gets a call from her sister, and her sister's like, hey, I need help with this case. So it's like going on at the same time is that the cop, her sister, has found a girl in the woods who came into the city and like is not talking. And so the story really follows like trying to figure out who this young girl is. She's probably like 6 or 7, and where she came from. And there also is a tiny bit of romance in there, which I love that Kristin Hannah always throws that in. And I just loved like trying to figure out who this little girl was, what had happened to her, and what was going on. And so it's the connection between all of the characters, and the psychologist and the little girl like form a really great bond. And I just loved it. I thought it was a great story. Actually, one of my friends is going to be reading it soon. So yeah, I gave that 5 stars. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. Okay. The next one that I read, I read this for book club. If you guys live in Tampa Girls Book Club is really fun. And we read a thriller called No Exit, which is also a movie. I gave this 4 stars. I liked this. It was so scary. It really, basically this girl is driving home from college because her mother is dying and she needs to go see her, but there's a snowstorm, and so she pulls over to a rest stop, and then at the rest stop all this shit goes down, and she is like she like goes outside to try to get something from her car or something, and she sees like that there is a little child locked in a van, and she realizes that out of like the 4 people that she's with in the middle of nowhere in a snowstorm stuck at this rest stop, that one of them is a killer, or well, the girl is alive, but like one of them has abducted a young girl. So it goes through her like trying to help get the young girl out, and then basically everything just, I don't want to give anything away, but it was really mind-blowing. And it's like one of those like you don't know who to trust, and you're trying to figure out if she's going to be able to help the girl. It was a high stakes scenario, and I will say it was definitely very gory. The explanations in the book, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm terrified. The movie I was mad at because they did not portray it correctly, and also different things happened and it did not follow the same exact events that happened in the book. I really liked that book. I thought that was great. It was definitely scary, so if you don't like scary books, don't read it. The next book that I read, I feel like this is going to be controversial because I had like heard a lot of good things about this. It's called The House in the Cerulean Sea. I gave this one 3 stars, and it really didn't all come together for me until the end. Like, I thought it was a very sweet book, and I don't know if it was because of like the magical elements in it. There were some magical elements in it. Basically, there was this man who just has a regular desk job. Well, it's not a desk job. He has a job where he goes to like foster care systems and makes sure that they are following all the procedures in line, and he just has a very like meticulous like job, and he never strays from it. He just like goes home, he does his job, and he just lives a very like plain life. And there is this corporation above him, and it felt very like a little bit dystopian in the sense of like that there was this power over him, and he had to go talk to them, and then they assigned him to this task to go to the house of the Cerulean Sea, where there were children with magical abilities. And so he goes there to try to make sure everything's in line, and it's just about like the relationships that he builds with the kids there. And honestly, it was very sweet at the end, but it definitely was a slower read for me, which is why I gave it a 3. I just wasn't like super into it, even though I thought that it was a good storyline. In July, I read The 5 Levels of Attachment, Toltec Wisdom for the Modern World. This was a super short book. I read the first book of this series called The 4 Agreements. This was my issue with this series. I actually have a lot to say about this. I did not love this. Oh, I gave it a 2 because I felt like, okay, yes, the things they were saying were good. This is like a self-help book situation. So the 5 levels of attachment, they're talking basically about like being least attached to something to being super attached to something, and how being really, really attached to things makes us unhappy and makes us suffer as humans. And my problem with this and this whole premise of this book was that I was like, okay, yes, I understand that if I'm not attached to something and I don't really care about it, it's not going to hurt me. Like, the analogy that he kept giving was sports. Like, if there's a sports team that I'm like, oh, I'm going to go watch this, but I'm not really for any other team, but like my friends are for one team and I'm going to watch and then they lose. It's not going to affect me for that long. As opposed to if I am like I have like part of my identity is this sports team, and then I'm like really sad for like weeks because they lost the game. My problem with this theory, obviously that's true. Like, the more attached you are to things, the more you're gonna feel and the more you are going to be potentially hurt. But for me, I was like, then what's the point of being human? What's the point of humanity if you are always on the lesser end of the spectrum because you're trying not to get hurt? And so I felt kind of just angry as I was reading these books. I was like, what is the point of being human if we're not getting attached to things, basically? So I don't recommend that one necessarily. The next book I read was The 7-Year Slip. I really liked this book. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was very, very cute. And it was, at first, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this, because the premise of it is this girl who, her aunt has passed away. Her aunt has given her this apartment, and apparently the apartment has like magical abilities to be able to take you to the past. And she meets somebody from the past, basically, who's not living in her present, and they like start to fall in love and all that, and it's a really cute love story, and I really liked it, and I think you should read it. You got to get past the whole like the apartment being magical type thing, and then it's good. The next book I read, okay, Taylor Jenkins Reid is another fan favorite author for me. I love The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I thought was really good. Daisy Jones and the Six, that has got to be my favorite, and the TV show is also so good. Atmosphere is her newest release. I gave it 4 stars. I really, really liked it. This is a story about Joan Goodwin, and she is working for NASA, and it's just about her navigating being a woman in a time period when there were really no women working at NASA. And she also falls in love with one of the other women, and she's trying to kind of come to terms with the fact that she is in love with a woman and all of those things. And I just think the storyline was beautiful, and I liked the switching back and forth between the present and the past because it's building the storyline. I thought it was really good. I did want a little more. I think that I remember being upset at the ending because I wanted more. Like, I feel like it deserved more time. Like, she had spent so much time building up like the people and the storyline, and you find out at the very beginning that there's like a crisis situation going on, and when that crisis situation is like being resolved and the ending is coming to, like, the book is coming to a close, it just happened so quickly, and I wanted a longer like ending to the story, I guess. Okay, another 4-star rating, my next book that I read. Oh, actually, I guess we'll talk about that in another video. Maybe I'll just do like 2-month reading recap videos of, because this book I read in August. But those are all of the books that I read in June and July, so like over the summer. If you guys did enjoy this style video, I know that this is like so new. I've never done like a book type video on my channel, but if you guys did like it, please let me know if there's other things you want me to include in my book videos. But I think it would be fun to continue doing this because I love reading and would love to share with you guys the books that I like, books I don't like, all of those things. I will share with you guys on each of these little episode things the book that I'm currently reading. So I'm currently reading Confess by Colleen Hoover. Read a couple of her books. I really like this book. I actually stole this from my friend's house, and I'm kind of towards the end of it, so I will be talking about this in the next bookish video. But if you guys have book recommendations, please leave them below. I feel like ever since I became a reader again, I have so many books to catch up on and so many books to read because there's so many wonderful books out there. But yes, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you did like it. And like I said, leave a comment telling me like if you like this style video and what books I should read next. Yes, anything I rated like 4 or 5 stars, definitely check it out and let me know what you guys think of it. I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Love you guys so much. Bye.